So to begin, let's understand where we're at inside of our project structure to get to this rendered page whenever we booted our application. So if we jump back into our project inside of our text editor, our application begins within the bin directory. Directory is noted by default by this little chevron icon, meaning that we can click on them to get inside of them. It contains an entry point for 3 different types of environments our server can start within. We have the console environment for ACE CLI commands. For example, that configure command we discussed in the last lesson to reconfigure the Lucid package. Our application starts here whenever we use those ACE CLI commands like that. Our server for our HTTP server, which we have running right down here. So whenever we ran our HTTP server with the serve command, that started within the server bin file. And then finally, we have test for our test environment. Tests are a way for us to ensure that our code's doing exactly what we want it to do, and those are defined within the tests directory. So whenever we run those individual tests, then the test bin file will be used to boot our server up. So these 3 files serve as the initiator for our server within these various contexts, and unless you're doing something advanced, you are not going to need to give much thought to them at all. So once we have initiated our app via one of these 3 bin files, we enter into the boot phase, which is where things get registered inside of our application and its inversion of control, or IOC container. This is where the adonisrc.ts file enters into the picture. So I'm going to go ahead and hide our terminal away there. This file is a primary point where things get registered inside of a project, containing things like experimental flags, as we can see here. This is brand new in version 7. Commands from various packages. Those get registered within the commands array. Service providers, again, these are mostly going to be from various packages unless we create our own. And service providers allow these packages to hook into the lifecycle hook of our booting AdonisJS server, allowing them to register things during our registration, boot, start, ready, etc. steps inside of our application. We also have preload files, and these are registered, again, during the boot phase that we're in here, but they're actually run during the start phase, which is the very next phase in our application's lifecycle. And then for our test context, we also have our tests registering which suites should be read from inside of our tests directory. So right now, our test directory is just going to have a bootstrap file inside of it, which is used for bootstrapping or getting our test environment set up. Since we don't have any tests inside of this project, we don't have any suites at this point in time. And then we also have meta files down here, which are files that will be copied over into the build folder whenever our project's being built for production purposes. Out of the bat, that will copy over anything within our views directory inside of our resources. These are the actual page, partials, components, etc. that create the rendered HTML and various other things that could also include XML that we see inside of our browser. So whenever we entered into our server, the actual page that was rendered out here is defined inside of our resources views directory. So if we take a look there, resources, views, we have a directory for components, pages, and partials. If we take a look at pages, there is that home.edge page that is used to actually render this particular page out here inside of our browser. So those get copied over as our application's built. And then we also have anything inside of the public folder will also get copied over during build. So with a brand new project, we don't actually get started with a public folder, but we can create a public folder and put anything inside of it that could be useful for things like logos or even things needed at the server level, like a robots.txt. What that would not include is our bundled JavaScript and CSS. If you might have noticed, those live within our resources directory. Those will get built during that build step as well, allowing those to get copied over into our public directory that way. Anything inside of that public directory is accessible directly off of our application's URL. So if we were to put a logo.png inside of that public directory, we would be able to access it directly, just like so. Okay, back into our text editor, because the last thing that we have in our adonisrc.ts file is this hooks section right down here. These are to define assembler hooks that allow us and the internals of AdonisJS to hook into our application again at various life cycles. Again, unless you're doing anything advanced, the only things that you might need to touch in this file are the meta files, if you need to copy anything additional over into your build, or your tests if you need to add in additional suites, or your preloads if you need to add an additional file to run during your application start. By default, we have our routes here, as well as our kernel. We'll get familiar with each of these a little later on, and that should really be it from this file. You might also need to register providers, but that gets a little bit more advanced. Next, within our boot phase, once it's done registering everything from inside of this file, we enter into our configuration files. The configuration files within our application will then be included, and these can be found within the config directory of our application. So if we open up our config, we see we have a number of files for various things within here. There's an app config for general HTTP server configurations, an auth config for our authentication-based configurations, database for database configurations, etc. Next, as part of our boot phase, the actual service providers are then run. And service providers are classes containing lifecycle hook methods, allowing them to perform code at these various stages throughout our application's lifecycle. And these can be easily created with the ACLI. We'll meet that in the next lesson, but for now, let's go ahead and just stop our server. We can do that with Control-C, and that will just terminate it there. So if we were to jump back into our browser at this point and try and restart or refresh the browser, it will no longer be able to connect because we're no longer running a server at this port on our local host. But this gives us access to our terminal yet again, so we can clear that out. And if we take a look at node ACE, there is a list of commands. Again, we'll take a look at this in the next lesson. So we're just going to look very specifically at the make section here. We should have a make provider command. I'm going to give this a run. So I'm going to clear out one more time and we'll do node ACE. And we'll run the make provider command. And I'm just going to call this example because that's the only reason that we're creating it, is to have an example provider to look at. One of the steps during this is asking us whether or not we want to register this provider within this adonisrc.ts file. If we don't register it here, it simply just won't run unless we manually execute it elsewhere. So we'll hit yes to register it there, and that will create both the provider file within our providers directory that will actually get added into our project structure, and it will also update our adonisrc file. So if we were to scroll down to the bottom of our providers array now, there is our brand new example provider. Okay, perfect. Let's close our terminal back out. And now we can jump into this providers directory and open up our example provider. So this is what a provider class looks like. It has a constructor that gets access to the application service. That gives us access to things like the logger instance, our version of control container, and other lower level things like that. And then it has these methods allowing us to hook into various lifecycle events inside of our application. So we have a register method, a boot, start, ready, and shut down method. During the boot phase, whenever our service providers are run, it will first run the register methods of these service provider classes. And then once the register methods have been run, it will run the boot method. At this level, all we're worried about understanding is that we have these various lifecycle events that happen as our application boots. We don't need to know how to work with them or anything lower than that really at this point in time. We'll get familiar with a service provider in the last module of the series, the engine room portion. For right now, all I want you to know is that we have these various events that happen as our application's booting. Once our service providers have been run up through their boot method, we then enter into the start phase. And this is where things actually begin to get initialized inside of our application. From our service provider, this is where, as you might have guessed, the start method hook is going to run. Later on in this phase, our ready method will also be run as well, after everything else inside of this phase has had a chance to run what it needs to run. What really shines during the start phase, though, is our start directory. These are also referred to as our preload files from our adonisrc.ts file. So within here, we have this preloads array containing, as the comment notes, a list of modules that are imported before starting the application. These are imported and run during this start phase. So we have a routes file and a kernel file within here, and we can find both of those within the start directory. We also have an env.ts file. This holds type definitions for our environment variables within it, and we'll discuss and get comfortable with those not in the next lesson, but the lesson thereafter. The kernel file here, which is one of the two of our preloads, is where our middleware are registered. We'll talk about those within module 2. And then finally, we have a routes.ts file also defined within our preloads array that we'll talk about in module 2 as well. This is where our routes get defined. Similar to our providers, if the preload is not included within this preloads array, then it will not be automatically run during the start phase of our application. Instead, it will need to be manually run elsewhere. Once the start phase is done, our server is ready to receive requests, and we're actually able to open it up inside of our browser and see it. That's where our application's domain level logic comes into play. And domain level logic is housed within our app directory. So if we were to take a look at our app directory here, we have controllers, exceptions, middleware, models, and validators within here presently. Controllers are for handling route requests. Exceptions are for handling our application's exceptions, middlewares for running logic between requests and response, models are for integrating with our database, and invalidators are to ensure data validity prior to receiving it inside of our route handlers or anywhere else that we need to take in data. More can and will be added to this directory as we continue to build our application as well. But apart from building out our pages, this app directory is where we will spend most of our time as we're developing our application. And we already touched on this a little bit, but our resources directory is for rendering views from our route handlers or controllers. So for example, again, if we drill into our views, pages, and we actually take a look at our home page, you'll see that we have HTML markup inside of here with a little bit of EdgeJS flavor on it to render out the markup that we saw inside of that HTML page whenever we opened it up inside of our browser. If all of this looks the same color to you and it has no syntax highlighting to it, make sure that you have the AdonisJS extension pack or specifically the EdgeJS template syntax highlighting extensions installed within Visual Studio Code. This particular extension right here for EdgeJS is what gives us this syntax highlighting here. Okay, that then leaves us with our ancillary directories. So these aren't specific to our dev server's lifecycle or application-based logic in any way. That includes our tests directory, which we did touch on briefly. This holds our test specifications and bootstrapping logic. Then we have our database directory, which holds our migrations, factories, and seeders used to shape our database and its initial data. We will get more comfortable with each of these as we walk through them inside of this series as well. So no need to commit any of this to memory right now. Our .adonisjs file up here is brand new to AdonisJS version 7. It holds files generated by our server for type safety, and the files within here should not be manually altered in any way, as again, they are generated by our server. So if you do make alterations to them, they will just get overwritten by our server later on. Node modules is where our project's dependencies are held. You should almost never need to dig into there at all. So for example, if we were to use the node package manager or npm to install a brand new package, that would get added into here for us to use inside of our project. .env holds our environment variables. The .env example is an example file of our .env holding keys that should be populated without the actual values inside of them. The .env.example gets committed to source control, but the .env does not, as this holds highly sensitive secret values inside of it that should not be shared elsewhere. Again, we'll talk about those a little bit more later on. The ace.js file is a little bit of a different file. It serves as a JavaScript entry point for the ACLI that imports the bin entry point in itself. Again, you should never need to really touch this file at all. Our vite.config.ts file down here holds our Vite configuration and resourceful assets. So if you ever need to add in a new CSS file or JavaScript file, you can do that within the entry points here. You can also add in additional plugins for Vite here as well that you may need to use. Vite in itself is used for both our dev server and the building process of our server as well. With our dev server, it will take the entry point files defined here and make them accessible for us without actually minifying and fully building them out. And we'll also do the hot module reloading portion of it as well. And then if we were to build for production, it would take these entry point files and actually create physical files within our project structure for them that's minified and ready to go for production use. The tsconfig.json file holds our TypeScript configuration. ESLint config holds ESLint configurations. The package.json kind of holds like our project's configuration as a whole. It's where our npm scripts and dependencies actually needed by our application are stored, among other things like our application scripts. And then the package log.json file is an add-on file to our package.json file that just kind of locks those dependency versions in so that your whole team stays on the same versions. The editor config file holds configurations for our text editor. Gitignore is used to omit files within our project structure from our source control. For example, it's going to omit the .env file from getting committed if we were to push this up to GitHub, for example. And then the prettier ignore is how we can ignore files and locations from prettier formatting. So that's a high-level overview of every little thing inside of our project's lifecycle, as well as our project structure. Really, the only thing that you need to know now is that we have a boot, start, and ready phase as our application is being prepared for use. And we also have a shutdown phase as we're turning things back off that deregisters everything and gets it ready for a clean shutdown experience. As well as our domain level logic is housed within our application directory or the app directory. And then the resources directory is used for our pages, HTML markup, JavaScript, CSS, and the like. Those are the main things that you should know at this point in time. Everything else that we discussed is just ancillary information so that you know your way around your project.